In this Cricut tutorial for beginners, I am showing you how you can use two super quick and super easy methods to etch out glass, or in this case, mirrors. So let's get crafty. Hey, I'm Michael from the Mr. Crafty Pants YouTube channel, where I show you tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to use and master your Cricut cutting machine. And today I have partnered up yet again with Design Bundles to bring you all another Cricut tutorial that is super easy to understand, and it goes step by step for Cricut beginners. But there's even some things wrapped up in here for someone who's been doing this whole Cricut thing for years now. And today I am so excited because I'm going to show you all two different ways to actually etch out glass, or really in this case, we're etching out mirrors. Now, one of these ways is a permanent solution. We will actually be etching out the mirror itself, but the other way is more of a temporary solution if you would like for it to be, and it's also pretty easy as well. Now, I specialize in Cricut cutting machines, so I'll be using my Cricut Maker. However, you can use a Cricut Joy or Cricut Explore Air 2 as well. And you can also use any other cutting machine like a Silhouette Cameo or Brother Scanning Cut, as long as your cutting machine can work with SVG cut files. So to get started with our first project, we are going to be using some Armor Etch Glass Etching Cream. I absolutely love this stuff. A little bit goes a very, very long way, and it's pretty affordable too for what all it does. I'm obsessed. I am also going to be using some stencil film vinyl, and as far as stencil film vinyl goes, this stuff is my favorite. This is brand new from StarCraft. This is the StarCraft Star Mask 900 stencil film vinyl, and I was actually lucky enough to be able to test this out before it was launched to the public, and I'm obsessed. There's no tunneling with this stencil film vinyl, super easy to use, and it's a really good high quality as well. To go along with this, I am also going to be using some transfer tape, and this is also my favorite stuff right here. I've tried a bunch of different types of transfer tape, and this stuff has always came out on top no matter what. This stuff is amazing. This is the medium tack transfer tape, and by the way, everything, and I do mean everything that I list or use or mention, will be all linked and listed for you all down in that description box below. And I also like to go through and try to find any promo codes that I can as well, and I will have those listed down there as well. And last but not least, for our first project, we're obviously going to need an SVG cut file, right? So we're going to head over to designbundles.net, and I'll show you what I'm using. All right, so here we are on designbundles.net, and this is the SVG bundle that I'm using today. So this is super, super cute. This is a vintage Christmas SVG bundle, and these are just amazing. I love them. This is actually the one that I'm using right here, the Merry Christmas SVG file, but there are so many more that are just adorable. Like, how cute are these? Like, I am obsessed. And what's really great about this is that the normal retail price is $5, but it's currently marked down to $2.50, which, I mean, y'all, that is a remarkably great deal for all those SVG files, especially considering how cute those are. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and click Add to Cart, and then I can go ahead and just click this button yet again to head to checkout. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on Continue to Payment. And here we are on our payment screen. So over on my YouTube channel in the past, I found that a lot of my subscribers have thought that you had to use store credit to make any purchases from Design Bundles, period. And that's just simply not the case. You can absolutely check out with PayPal or even with like a debit card or credit card as well. But if you do use store credit, you do get a discount, which, I mean, that's amazing. All right, so here we are back on Cricut Design Space, and I'm gonna come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click on Upload, and then I'm gonna select Upload Image, and then I'm gonna select Browse, and I am looking for my Merry Christmas SVG file, so I'm sure that that will be under this file right here. So I'm gonna select that, and sure enough, I was right. So here is our Merry Christmas SVG file. So I'm gonna select that, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Open. All right, so here it is right here under our recently uploaded images. So I'm gonna go ahead and select that, and then come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Insert Images. All right, so here is our file. Now, if we'll take a look over here at the right-hand side of the page, this SVG file has a bunch of different layers going on. Let me go ahead and just fix that because we don't need multiple layers for this. We're actually going to create a stencil out of this, and then later on, we'll also actually cut out vinyl with this SVG file. But either way, I'm gonna go ahead and come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Weld. And Weld basically merges or fuses all of those layers into one solid image, as we can see over here at the right-hand side of the page in that layers panel. All right, right, so all we really need to do now is just resize this to fit onto our surface. Now again, I am applying this to a mirror, which I'm so excited about. So let me go ahead and grab that mirror so we can see what we're working with. All right, so here is the mirror right here. Now this thing it's a little wide. And I actually already have measured this out, and it is 19 inches round. So what I'm actually going to do is create a template in Cricut Design Space so I know how to accurately resize our image. So to do that, I'm going to first put this back down. But now I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side of the page and click on Shapes. And for this template, I'm going to open up a circle. There we go. And let's go ahead and just change the color of this, although the color doesn't really matter a whole lot. But to change that color, I'm coming up here towards the top left-hand corner, clicking that little color swatch. And for the mirror, let's just change it to this light gray. There we go. All right, so now we need to resize this to be the actual size of our mirror, which again is 19 inches round. So I'm gonna come up here to the top of the canvas where it says size. I'm gonna change out the numbers where it says width. I'm gonna put in here 19 for 19 inches, hit enter, and there we go. And since that little path lock up here was locked, it went ahead and locked in those proportions and changed the height to be 19 inches as well, which is perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click this little template, select send to back, and there we go. All right, so the sizing on that actually looks pretty good. However, the maximum cutting size for at least a 12-inch by 12-inch cutting mat is 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches. And if you'll take a look right here, the width on this right now is a little over 12.5 inches. So we're gonna have to cut that down just a little bit. So to do that, I'm gonna come up here again to where it says size. Again, making sure that our SVG file is selected when doing this. I'm gonna clear out the numbers next to width. I'm gonna put in here 11.5. hit enter, and there we go. That's automatically resized perfectly for us. Now, I still think that this looks actually really good as far as the size goes on that mirror or on that template. So I think we're good. Let's go ahead and delete out that template, and we can come up here towards the top right-hand corner and select Make It. All right, so this is just like the matte preview screen. This is just kind of showing us how this is going to look cut out onto our vinyl, or in this case, our stencil film vinyl. However, since we are using this as a stencil, I do want there to be a little bit of a margin around our vinyl. So I'm just actually gonna move this down a little bit away from the top of this mat, like so. So I'm gonna come down here towards the bottom right-hand corner and select Continue. I'm gonna turn on my maker. However, you can, again, use any type of cutting machine that works with SVG cut files for this. Now for this StarCraft Star Mask stencil film vinyl, the preferred cut setting for this is just regular plain Jane vinyl. So I'm gonna select vinyl right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and load some onto our cutting mat, and we'll get started cutting. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and load this into our maker. All right, so our stencil film vinyl is all done being cut out. So I'm actually going to go ahead and remove this from the cutting mat. And the way that I like to do that is just by flipping the mat over and peeling the mat away from the vinyl, or in this case, the stencil film vinyl, instead of the other way around. That really just helps prevent any damage from occurring to our material. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and weed all this out. However, to do that, we're basically having to weed in reverse. So what we would normally weed out and remove, we are now going to be leaving behind for this, which can seem a little confusing. I totally get that, but hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense once you actually see me start weeding it. Oh, and to weed all this out, I am using my by far all-time favorite weeding tool, which is this pin weeding tool right here. This little guy is absolutely amazing. How cool is that? So I'm going to go ahead and grab some transfer tape, apply it to our stencil film vinyl, and then we can actually apply that to our mirror. All right, so as far as applying this transfer tape, I'm actually gonna do this a little bit differently. I'm actually gonna lay this out onto my desk with the sticky side facing up. And I'm gonna take my stencil film vinyl here and actually apply this face down onto the sticky side of the transfer tape. You don't have to do it this way. It helps me just maintain a little bit more control over applying this, in my opinion anyway. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and peel the backing paper off of the stencil film vinyl and the transfer tape. All right, so here we go. Here is the stencil and the transfer tape all together. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and just grab my mirror and we'll apply that. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and grab my squeegee tool, which is this little guy right here, and then just burnish this down to the mirror. And this doesn't have to be super perfect. As long as all the stencil film vinyl that is basically bordering each letter, as long as that is firmly adhered to the surface, you'll be good. We just can't run the risk of any of this glass etching cream getting anywhere that we don't want it to be. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a corner of this transfer tape and start slowly pulling it back. Just making sure that none of our stencil film vinyl is wanting to come back up with it. If that is the case, we want to actually burnish that down just a little bit more, and that should hopefully take care of the issue for us. All right, so as you may be able to see here, our letters are coming pretty close to the border of that stencil film vinyl. So actually what I'm going to do is grab some masking tape like this right here, pull off just a little bit, and then just lay that down right on the outside edge of that, just to help make sure that we don't get any of this glass etching cream anywhere that we don't want it to be. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put on some gloves just to help protect my hands from any of this glass etching cream because it is technically an acid. And I'm also going to put on some safety goggles as well. These are so bad. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shake up the Armor Etch really good. And I am now just going to be using a regular paintbrush like this right here. I'm just going to scoop some out like so. And then just kind of dab / brush this over top of our stencil. All right, so I'm just gonna keep rubbing this on or brushing this on for about 5 to 6 minutes or so. You really just wanna make sure that this etching cream is constantly moving and it's getting into all the little nooks and crannies and everything of the stencil. And what I personally like to do with this is about 2.5 to 3 minutes or so into the glass etching process, I like to add in just a little bit more of that glass etching cream and then just continue moving and sweeping it all around the entire surface. All right, so once your 5 to 6 minutes or so is done, you can go ahead and just rinse this off. However, for me, this is pretty large to try to fit under a faucet. So I'm actually going to grab a wet rag and wipe it off this way. All right, so now I'm going to very carefully start peeling up the rest of the stencil film vinyl. All right, so now I'm gonna wash over this one more time and then actually clean it with some glass cleaner. Y'all, this is looking so freaking good. So be sure that you stay tuned until the very end of today's episode so you can get the full reveal on both of our projects. All right, so for our next project, we are going to get the look of etched glass, or in this case, an etched mirror, but without the commitment of making it absolutely permanent. And we're going to do that with this etched vinyl right here. Now, it doesn't look like anything super spectacular at first glance, but I promise you all, this stuff is so freaking cool, and I cannot wait to show you all what it looks like once it's applied to a surface like this. And in addition to this, I'm also going to be using this medium tack transfer tape once again, because this stuff is amazing, y'all. Like, I love it. So I'm gonna come back over here to Cricut Design Space, and I'm gonna come back up here towards the top right hand corner and click on Make It, because everything is already sized perfectly for that mirror that we're working on today. And yes, I do have a duplicate mirror that we'll be working with. So I'm gonna come up here, select Make It. Here is yet again our matte preview screen. I'm leaving everything as is and coming down here towards the bottom right hand corner and selecting continue. For our material cut settings, what I'm doing for this is premium vinyl with more pressure. With that being said, always do test cuts before committing to a big design like this, because the last thing that you want to do is actually cut a larger design and waste a bunch of vinyl or material with the wrong cut settings. But now I'm gonna go ahead and load this onto my cutting mat and we'll get started cutting this now. And I'm gonna go ahead and load this into my Cricut. All right, so again, I'm just gonna go through and weed out our design. And yes, I'm using the exact same transfer tape that I used earlier. One of the things I love with this transfer tape is that you can use it over and over and over again. And I'm just gonna grab my little squeegee tool right here and then just burnish that down to that etched vinyl. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just flip all this over and then peel the backing paper away from the etched vinyl and the transfer tape. And you don't have to do it this way. I've just been doing this more and more here lately and I'm really liking it. And I'm just going to very, very carefully place this onto the mirror. And then just go ahead and burnish this down. And then carefully start peeling the transfer tape off. All right, so we will be doing a full final reveal here in just a second, but let me say this real quick about this etched vinyl. Although this does have a permanent adhesive to it, if you actually ever wanted to remove it from a surface, just pull out a hairdryer, heat it up for a little bit, and then just kind of scrape and pull it off slowly. And then from there, you can always get a little bit of Goo Gone or something like that and actually remove it from the surface. This really, truly does give you the look of etched glass, but without the permanent consequences of that. However, do keep in mind that if you're wanting to actually etch out like a baking dish or an actual drinking glass, in that scenario, you will definitely want to actually use a glass etching cream because this etched vinyl, in most cases, is not going to hold up forever and ever. So with that being said, let's take a look at how everything turned out. Now, if you all liked today's episode, or if you learned something new, let us know by stamping that like button, as well as dropping a comment down in that comment section below. Both of those things help us out tremendously here on YouTube. It is just so appreciated. And honestly, I am just super curious as to which method you all prefer. If you all like the glass etching cream method or the actual etched vinyl method. Again, let us know down in the comments below. Also, while you're at it, if you have not yet subscribed to the Design Bundles YouTube channel, you should consider doing that. You do not want to miss out on a single crafty minute coming out of this channel, I promise you that. Thank you all so much for watching today's episode. It truly means the world to us. And until next time, stay crafty.